Let's get to the big story, serious stuff. Senator Mitch McConnell wants Congress to pass judgment on any nuke deal that President Obama makes with Iran. Come on in, Senator Jeff Flake, Republican from Arizona. Senator, I know you're familiar with this. Our viewers, frankly, sir, are incensed that Congress will not be able to pass any kind of judgment on a deal with our mortal enemies. Tell me that Mitch McConnell's bill will succeed and that you will have a say in what happens with Iran.
Right. Well, anybody who thinks that Congress won't have a say in something of this magnitude, a deal which will last long beyond this presidency, is mistaken. Congress will weigh in. This legislation is first proposed by Senator Corker, and Mitch McConnell has said he's going to bring it straight to the floor.
What do you make of this, that there was a bill, and it was proposed, I think, Senator Menendez
right.
and Senator Tim Kaine, two Democrats. They have proposed this bill with Senator Corker, but Robert Menendez and Tim Kaine have dropped out. They were the Democrats backing this bill. They've dropped out. Were they pressured by the White House, do you think?
Well, I think it's just an issue of timing. Some feel that, you know, in the last couple of weeks of the negotiation, we shouldn't introduce something that might impact the negotiations. I'm all for a good deal. I think all of us want that, but we just want to make sure that Congress has a chance to weigh in. I think this will be a bipartisan move in the end, whether it's voted on now or in a couple of weeks.
Can I just play a soundbite for you from Judge Napolitano, who appeared on this program earlier today? He says foreign policy should be the president's job. Just listen to this for a second.
No, I don't have a problem with Congress taking a look at the deal.
All right,
but
Congress
cannot interfere with the deal because the Supreme Court has ruled probably a dozen or so times that with respect to foreign affairs, the president is the sole creator of foreign power.
Now, Senator, you heard him. That the Supreme Court has ruled that it is the president who has sole discretion over these deals with foreign leaders. You don't get a look in.
No, the president does have the right to negotiate a deal like this, but Congress imposed the sanctions that we currently have on Iran, and only Congress can lift those sanctions permanently. The president, under the legislation, has the ability to waive for a temporary time those sanctions, but to lift them permanently, it has to be congressional action. So Congress does have a role here, and a big one. So we will weigh in.
I know that you've been finding some egregious examples of government waste. I remember Senator Tom Coburn, who used to have the pork book, I think it was called, or the government waste book. I think you've taken over from him. Can you give us an example, the primary egregious example of government waste?
Well, one of the big ones we've highlighted lately, we have something called pork chops, and so every week we highlight a particular egregious example of pork, and the last one we did was something called the harvest price option. Now, we have crop subsidies, and some of them may be justified, but the harvest price option guarantees that farmers make a profit even when they're making a bigger profit when they're making a profit. And it costs a huge amount, I think about $19 billion over a 10-year period. So there are many things like that we've got to look at. Some people think that because congressional earmarks are gone, then there is no waste anymore, and that's certainly not the case.
You know, we've heard these examples before, but, you know, nothing ever really changes, does it?
Well, with regard to congressional earmarks, it did, but it took a lot of work on the part of people like Tom Coburn and others of us who highlighted these every week and went to the floor on appropriations bills time after time after time to try to root out this waste, and it did. It did make a difference with regard to congressional earmarks, but there's still plenty of waste there. People say that, you know, with the sequester and with us doing better on discretionary spending, that there's no waste left. That's what the administration would have you believe, but that's just not the case. There's a lot to cut.
Senator, we've got a big audience in Arizona, and they're cheering you on, believe me. Senator Jeff Flake, Republican, Arizona. Thanks for joining us, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure.